This is Mike Miazga with the American Supply Association, and we'd like to welcome you to another one of our ASA Town Hall interviews. This time we're zeroing in on the manufacturing segment of our PHCP-PVF supply chain, and joined by three distinguished gentlemen from three great companies here in our industry. First, Tom LaGuardia, Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Milwaukee Valve. How you doing, Tom?
Very good. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, Milwaukee Valve and NIBCO, of course, ASA Platinum Supplier Partners, and Tom's been a tremendous supporter of ASA initiatives over the years, and I still have blisters, Tom, on the bottom of my feet from that cab ride in Washington a couple of years ago. Also with us today, Bill Zoeller, President of Zoeller Pump in Louisville, Kentucky. Hi, Bill.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me.
You bet. For those of you that might have missed it, Bill and Zoeller hosted an awesome ASA webinar a couple of weeks ago on the topic of succession planning and also family business best practices. If you missed that, hop on over to the My ASA section on our website, asa.net, and go to the podcast and webinar section. And that's one you probably want to take a look at if you are part of a family business. And of course, Zoeller, Bill, we thank you for your support, ASA, a gold supplier partner. And last but certainly not least, Jeff Pratt, Vice President of Sales, Niagara Corporation down in Flower Mound, Texas. Jeff's, again, another longtime supporter of ASA initiatives. How you doing today, Jeff?
Good, Mike. Thanks for having me. And I'm really glad to be with Bill and Tom today. What a great panel.
Awesome. So these town hall interviews, as you three certainly know, we do them to just kind of give a boots on the ground perspective to folks in our industry on what, companies and executives are going through here. We're in, of course, unprecedented times with the pandemic. And we'll kind of start off with that today, Tom. Take us back to, kind of the beginning of the pandemic, Milwaukee Valve, what was happening with your company, and as you moved along and emerged out of it, what key takeaways did you have?
Well, it all started, back in March when I was sitting at a Commonwealth group, or the Embassy Buying Group at that time. They were still separate. I was sitting there out on one of the beautiful balconies down at the Trump Doral, and waiting for my dinner to host 45 people for dinner that night and head up. I was going to get up the next morning, fly home, and get on a plane and fly out to MCAA in Hawaii. Yep. Well, as I was sitting there doing some work, I got the notice that MCAA had gotten canceled. So we hosted our dinner, came home instead, and the whole world changed, really. At the very beginning, business turned off almost immediately once the industry started really shutting it down. I mean, we had already been hearing things. We have a supply chain in China that had gone through it, but we were already back up and running in that operation by that time. We were down for about 3 weeks over there. We were already up and running, didn't really understand what was going to happen here. But we had to come back, somehow figure out how to get 11 district and regional managers off the road safely, figure out how to protect the rep agency, and then what the business volumes were going to be. So it was as it came up so quickly and suddenly, that it just immediately shut down, and the volumes just shut off immediately. Those early months were just horrendous with respect to the volume, the incoming volume, after really what was working out to be a pretty good quarter. The first quarter of the year was great. It was moving pretty well.
Yeah, I would say, if I could just jump in next,
No.
I would say the same thing happened. It was like a freight train. You heard it, you knew it was coming, but you didn't quite understand what it was going to be all about. No different for us. It just shut down that second week of March completely. And of course, our biggest adjustment was, getting the team back together and changing their habits on how they're going to go to market. Because in our industry, let's face it, as Tom said, and I'm sure, Bill, you do the same with your team, you're out, you're with customers, we're a people industry, and we connect that way. And to pull back, the biggest challenge for us was obviously production. All of a sudden we went like, boom, dead. And then to try to manufacturing overseas as well, we had to make that adjustment. And as Tom had said, we're the same way. We were coming out of it, even though we knew that freight train was coming. But mostly it was our people and redefining what they did on a day-to-day basis and into the new world. Of course, being optimistic in the beginning, thinking, wow, this is only going to be 90 days or 6 months maybe, and we're going to be out of it. But it's certainly changed right even to now as to how we go and what we do. I am really happy to say that Niagara maintained every employee. We did not lay off anybody during this. We just redefined on how they are going to approach the people in the marketplace. So that was the biggest thing for us in this when it first came in March, is to get those people thinking differently than they do every other day.
How about you, Bill?
Yeah, sure. Just kind of echo. I was at that same buying group that Tom was at. Got home Friday the 13th, kind of a unique day there. But we kind of huddled up our executive team over the weekend and really just put together a game plan. And we thought we were being conservative by putting together like an 8-week plan. We're like, after 8 weeks, mid-May, we'll be through this. We'll be back to normal. And obviously it's extended past then. But the biggest thing for us was we had just started rolling out Microsoft Teams. We had like a 6-month rollout plan. We're slow to change, but literally that Monday, the 16th, we had people coming in and basically giving them a 2-hour training course on Teams and sending them home. And pack up for 2 weeks. We'll be back. And obviously it's extended way past then. But getting the office staff kind of out of the building was priority one. And then from a production standpoint, we have 450 production workers here in Louisville. I mean, I'm sorry, 270 production workers. We have 450 total people, but 270 total people here in Louisville, and just trying to space them out from an assembly line standpoint. That took some time, but we were able to do that and keep production and keep the majority of our employees working was the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that Commonwealth meeting. It was nuts. You'd go to the opening reception, the first night you're in there, and you'd be talking with people. Then the next morning you hear how they pulled them off the road, and it kept going and going and going. I remember one person came to our table and said the only reason they were at the meeting was because they were on the Atlantic coast of Florida where they lived, and they were able to drive over to the meeting. So it was just like a snap of the fingers. We got off the road on that Friday, and by Tuesday everyone was working remote out of the ASA office. So just amazing how quickly that turned. So let's so this will be airing in the new year here, the first week when we're back from the holiday break. What start with you, Bill? What allowed Zoeller to emerge stronger out of the pandemic, and what takeaways did you take out of the pandemic?
Yeah, so one thing, kind of being a family-owned business, you have some history here. So we've got 4 family members that work in the business, and we were just joking around one day to saying, has anybody found Granddad's pandemic plan? And we're just kind of laughing. I mean, it's a lot of stress. But anyway, we kind of said, well, he's already kind of put the plan in place. We just got to follow it. And it's just a good reminder in business that we're stressed out. We're doing a lot of things. But if you take care of your employees, you take care of your customers, everything else will take care of itself. And we've had to make a lot of tough decisions. I'm sure like a lot of businesses have, and we've tried to have those two as our base to make our decisions. And for the most part, that helps me kind of sleep at night, knowing that we're taking care of those 2 bits. And then short term, there might be some pain, but long term, we'll come through this stronger. So that's kind of what we've kind of joked around. It's Granddad's pandemic plan, but it's the basis that he kind of grew this business on anyway.
Jeff?
Yeah, for us, it was just getting the team to think differently on how they wanted to interact with the customer base. Similar to Bill, we have a CRM system that probably wasn't utilized to the most efficient way it could be. Well, certainly now that is being maximized to its greatest. And also, we also put in another system called Gong. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with it, but it actually records the phone conversations of the people when we're talking to our customer base. And it was sort of like a big brother thing to begin with, but really it's a tool for us to be able to help and coach the team. With them being inside, I think that was certainly the what's emerged for us as being stronger. They've learned how to interact with the customer base, who, by the way, is just sitting there like we are, wondering, okay, what are we going to do and how are we going to connect with somebody? So they're open. Our customers are open for communications. They really want that communications. And, it was a little bit different, whether it be Zoom or GoToMeeting on how to do it, because let's face it, guys, we're not probably the most technical industry in the world, although some of us are okay with it. So getting through all that, learning how to manage that team members to get the most out of a Zoom call or a GoToMeeting, how to interact with a customer base. Those are probably that's what's really allowed us to do so well last year, even though we were down in March, but obviously the swooshes happened and we've come back. But really going forward, right? Because we don't know what we're going to do with the inoculations and now the new strain in England, and it's going to be August and we're going to be all back in the ballparks. Who knows? I think that the way we're going to be doing business is going to be different. We're all hoping we can be like Tom was and you, Bill and Mike sitting out in the Commonwealth having a cocktail. We all want that. That's what we're used to. But I think that for us, coming out of it is a new process, and how we're going to connect with our customers is the thing that we did mostly.
Want me to jump in there, Mike? Or?
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, yeah, I have to echo the same thing as Jeff and Bill. I mean, we really learned a lot over the course. We love showing off our plant, and the last plant tour here was in February, and somebody came in from Denver, and we don't get a lot of visitors in the winter, as you can imagine, here in Milwaukee, but they came in to see the Nuggets play the Bucks, and it was a great visit, and then it all shut down. We probably show that plant, 30 times a year to different groups. So, we were sitting here a couple of months ago, and, as we've learned a lot of things, we've learned the Teams thing. We've done that. I never did this. I didn't know what Zoom was before that. Now we have Teams and everybody's on that and we're well versed. And we're even talking about just don't Teams people just the Teams people. People, you have to have a mission when you go, just like a sales call. So we're trying to get better at that. But we put together virtual plant tours. We're going to take that forward. We're exposing the plant to more and more people now. Typically, we'd get 2 or 3 come from an organization. I did one a couple of weeks ago with 15 people in a conference room. So those are sort of the things we're sort of learning that. We've put together our COVID mission statements, and we kept communicating through our mailing list that we have and we used that we probably underutilized over the years. We collected this data. We're all the same. We go to market through distribution, but we sell through an end user level or an engineering level at some point. We have to get to those people, and we always did it, handshake, one at a time, with a lot of people on a lot of feet on the street and doing it. And it was great. Lost out on the MCAA, which is, a primary source for the yearly source where you get to see everyone. And that really is the big contractors. When you lose that out, when we lost that, we had to get to them in other ways. And we're going to take all of those tools with us that we built. And I think we can come out stronger. We had the catastrophe plans in place, and like you guys, and we didn't have great grandpa's look, Bill, but at the end of the day, we looked at it, but it wasn't designed for pandemics. It was designed for tornadoes going through the plant, or God forbid some other tragedy. But we came through it. I'm amazed at how resilient we were, and the staff was. I really am. We all shared. We did shut down the company. I think it was 9 days in total that we shut down the company, and we all took that. We wrapped it around holidays and long weekends in the first of the month, and we all took it without pay, and to help, and that preserved all the jobs. And I think everyone was respectful for the decisions we made there, and it really worked out well. With respect to to the business. I mean, obviously it helped the business out, but we didn't have to lose any of those employees, so that was all good. So I think we take through all of this technical stuff that we learned, and we just do it a little differently moving forward. I think we're all a little bit more versed in it, and we're getting to a generation that we probably weren't getting to our old way. Handshakes and all of that. Not everybody was on for that. There's a whole generation behind us that wants to do it this way, and our people have to get there too, and they are old state products. We don't change much, as Jeff said. They're all old state products in the industry, but the industry as a whole has to keep going, forward with the new group. So
let's talk about current day. We have, it's exciting here that we have 3 diverse segments of our supply chain, with Tom in the industrial and marine, Bill in the pumps, and Jeff kitchen and bath, with certainly with Niagara's toilets. Where are your businesses at today? And kind of give me a snapshot of that. What do you attribute it to? What are you seeing is hot? What parts of the country are hot? And why do you attribute where you're at to what's going on current day? Jeff, we'll kick it off with you.
Yeah, certainly. When it hit in March, obviously we took the dip like everybody else, but as predicted, every month after that has been up, 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 and it's like the Nike swish. So we're right back up the last, I would say, 3 months. I'm not including December. I'm sure December is the same way, of where we were supposed to be. So we ended up the year pretty darn strong. I would also say that going into next year, the biggest thing that we have to manage, at least from supply chain side, is the up and down of production. Of course, we're overseas. In Vitris, China is a little bit more difficult to ramp up and ramp down. And I think that that's going to be one of the biggest challenges from a supply chain that we have, is ramping up to production. The biggest segment that we're seeing is obviously new homes. Those millennials are moving out of the city. They're starting to build families. They're moving out. You can see the record starts. They're up in 40% plus range. So single family is strong. Multifamily is weaker, certainly, especially new construction side. However, renovation is strong as well. So we're seeing a lot of residential markets. Commercial applications, although I'm not in it, I do know a little bit about it, being around for a while, is a little bit slower. I think that office space is going to be redefined. I don't know if everybody's going to go back to office space or not. So I'm not sure that new construction office space is going to be an area that's going to be strong in the next 3 to 5 years. But certainly that single family residential is going to be booming, especially for us. And our biggest challenge is to maintain that stream of products without getting what we call, at least what I call the whipsaw effect, where you're ramping up, and then all of a sudden it stops, right? And then you got to ramp up the factory again. And I'm sure that Tom and Bill, you guys probably do that right out your back door in your own warehouse.
Bill?
Yeah, similar story as far as 2020. We had a strong first quarter. Actually, it's almost a record first quarter right there, with some of the best we've ever had. And then April just tanked, and then we've been slowly building momentum the rest of the year. And we're about where we projected 2020 to be. As far as I would agree with the supply chain, that's kind of our biggest focus right now. We've done a lot of stuff over the last 5 years to vertically integrate our products. We're able to say made in the USA on several of our products now, due to some motor manufacturing that we're doing in-house. But level loading that production is critical, because there are going to be some supply hiccups. You just don't know where they're going to be at this point. So we're trying to do everything we can to prevent that, whether it's bringing in additional inventory or building stuff up as finished goods here when we have the labor to do it. Because a COVID outbreak in your facility could shut it down for a couple of days, and you just want to be able to take care of your customers with products. So we're doing everything we can to try to smooth that out. As far as like markets, we're pretty even across the U.S. as far as locations. Product mix pretty even as well. I mean, we are seeing some uptick in the new houses that Jeff talked about. Commercial was kind of dead, I'd say, through the summer for us. That's starting to pick back up, which is encouraging. So 2021, looks to be good, but hold your breath and see what happens, I guess.
Tom, how's it going at Milwaukee Valve right now?
I like to say every business is a little unique, right? We are a little unique too, because we have a group that we sell product to the U.S. Navy and valves that go on Navy ships. And we've been on every ship since 1965. Every platform has had Milwaukee Valve products. And today it's a substantial part of our business. And that's really uninterrupted by any of this. So there's there's 30% of our business that's uninterrupted by any of that, with long lead times, very discrete orders, very long lead times. So you have that nice even flow, through the operations here in the United States. And then you have the commercial side, which is, been up and down. We had a great first quarter. The last, I can't go back as far as you, Jeff. I can only say October and November. We hit, the pre-COVID goals, or you will, or the original coming into 2020 goals. For those months, December seems a little weaker at this point in time, but we'll see how we finish up. But it's typical of a December around here. We vertically integrated our operations over the last 20 years, and we do have products that come in from China, and we own those plants in China. So they have one customer, it's here. So our supply chain has been pretty good. Now the supply chain coming into those is obviously, it has to be monitored all along. We are on my side of the business here, we are commercial industrial only. So we need office buildings, hospitals, schools, hotels going up and conventions happening and things along those lines. And, it does look bright for at least the beginning of 2021. There's a lot of pent up work. It's starting to come back, and you're seeing things break. Longer range, you get concerned as to what's really going to happen. Are we building another office building, or are we converting office buildings to really, really nice condos? Are the schools going to use all of that endowed money to build that next campus, the next building on campus? Not if kids aren't coming back, and the good folks at the hotels, are they building that at 40% occupancy rate? So really need to see this thing come all the way back. I think we'll probably come into 2021 being pretty strong, and depending on how it all goes, we will have a little blip mid-year and then go back up. That's what we're hoping for. On forecasting for next year, we're right around the same levels of this year. We're not looking for a tremendous amount of organic growth in our plan. Obviously, we're going to go for it. We're going to keep pushing, and hopefully that happens. But we've tried to run the business that way. And bigger concerns next year is all the commodity pricing, what's happening there, and we got to start raising prices again. And is that going to curtail some of the is it helping push along some of the volume we're seeing now? Is it real? Was it just anticipation in some price controls and where people can buy into the inventory, or is it really volume? But as New York and New England open up a bit, there's a very strong areas for us, and they shut down fast and hard early on, and we lost just a tremendous amount of volume there. So we're seeing that pick up. It's nice. It's not even at the pre-COVID levels, but that's okay. We're doing pretty well down in Florida, as that seems to be opening up, but more in high-rise condo than in hospitality, certainly. And then Pacific Northwest has been strong throughout the whole thing for whatever reason. And Midwest has been steady. The typical Midwest has been steady. So we certainly have areas. We have areas where we can grow. Certainly and try to go after market share. But we're optimistic for next year. But I'm always cautious as we get into that second half of the year, where those projects are going to come from and where they're going to go with our products.
Mike, if I could just, I just want to just add on a little bit to what Tom said about the hospitality side, because we also sell into that. It's a decimated market right now, for sure. However, knowing that market really well, they have to meet brand standards, and it may not be this year or next year or even 36 months from now, but that sector is going to come roaring back, and you're gonna have that in your favor. Because they have to meet these standards and they have to invest in that infrastructure. The companies that invest today in that market, whether it be through specifications like we do into that marketplace, keeping relationships, are the winners in the next 3 to 5 months in that sector. If you ignore it and you say it's dead and I'm not going to go and spend any time in that, it's going to hurt your company.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Well, just real quick there, just to echo that a little bit, I have a line around here, and I think my people probably, discussed it because I say it all the time, but there's no obsolescence in what we do. There's no obsolescence in that spec work. There's no obsolescence in our distributor relationships. And then finally, there's no obsolescence in what they put in. Bill, you probably, you have some of that because you have more moving parts in your world at the pump side. But still, those products are expected to work for long, long periods of time. And these relationships are long standing relationships. So we don't, we continue to push into that arena. We're doing everything we can to maintain the specifications, and maintain our contact with that group because it's our lifeblood at the end of the day.
Yeah. It'll pay big rewards for you if you do it.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
One more question here before we get out of here. Tom, you kind of already gave put your prognostication hat on for 2021. Jeff, we'll start with you, and Bill will finish up. What do you see 2021 looking like for this industry, the supply chain, and any concerns?
Sure. So overall, we're expecting growth. I think that we're in the new norm, whatever that is. I think people are now used to doing business in the new norm, whether we have a pandemic or not. We're predicting to have growth in our marketplace. I think the biggest concern for me is supply chain. As I said, and it goes across the board, even with my competitors who are struggling with ramping up to meet the demand, at least in the vitreous China business. And then to Tom's point, and the last point I'll make is I'm worried about costs, specifically transportation costs, which is really driving up our importing coming in and our domestic, and just getting trailers to move the product at affordable pricing. It's not necessarily the cost of goods that we're as concerned about, but the transportation costs have doubled. And I'm sure I can see Tom and Bill both shaking their heads. That's what I'm concerned about. And it's going to have to be passed on. It's something that my company is not going to be able to absorb, especially when you're moving vitreous China across the country. You can imagine how expensive that is.
Bill, 2021?
So we're excited about 2021. We talked a little bit about it. We redeployed our assets a little bit here, as like a lot of companies did. Our Center for Excellence, we had over 100 events scheduled that we canceled. We have a whole team that manages that. So as soon as we canceled those events, we put them in charge of several new initiatives that we're going to be rolling out in 2021. Zoeller University, some new products. So we do see some growth due to the fact that we're rolling out some new stuff there. But overall, I kind of see the industry. This is kind of how we've kind of set up our budget, is we'll call it the COVID normal for the first quarter. Things is what we've been doing for the last 9 months. Then local loosening up, I'm hoping in the second quarter, where people start getting some confidence that having people in the showrooms, at the counters, doing some small local events. And then hopefully in the third quarter, at least I'm hoping that we can get together for industry events and get to see people like we used to. And then we'll see how it goes. But it's got to slowly build that confidence up with the vaccine coming out. I think people will be ready to do some of that stuff. But overall, 2021, we're kind of a little bit of growth, but just trying to keep pushing those initiatives and maintaining those relationships like Tom and Jeff have talked about. That's critical. I mean, we're going to have to figure out a way to keep building those relationships and moving forward.
Well, I can't thank you three enough for coming on here and a great conversation about where we've been and where we're headed. Tom LaGuardia, Milwaukee Valve, always great to see you. Bill Zoeller over at Zoeller Pump in Louisville, nice to see you. And Jeff Pratt over at Niagara Corporation. Again, thank you for the great insight. And don't forget, ASA Chief Economist Dr. Chris Keel is here in the middle of the month in January with his monthly economic update. He also does a podcast on the weeks he doesn't do a webinar, 5 to 10 minutes. You can listen to it quickly, and he'll zero in on one specific segment of the economy that is relevant for our industry. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks,
Pleasure,
Mike.
Guys.
Hi, Bill. Bye, Tom.
Thanks, Jeff.
Be well.